I need to go talk into this microphone so that somebody can calibrate something. I'm not sure what it is, but she's working on it, and we have every confidence that she will complete her task 100% successfully.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. I mean, I can hear myself like too loud when I'm standing here.
You can hear yourself through the speakers?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's working.
Yeah. I think I turned it up too much. Testing 1 2 3. Testing. I can hear myself. Can everybody hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Can you people in the back hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me from the back. Thank you. They can all hear me.
Let me see the transmitter.
It says 3101.
It's on.
Yeah.
You're not plugged in.
Testing, testing. Oh, hello. Okay, so this, I don't think this will be on the docket, so let's just do a poem from that I used to appreciate. So, I'm part of a English reading and writing comprehension tutoring system, and so I actually used this very recently with a pupil in mind. Pupil. Interesting. There's a very loud P sound to this. Anyways, the Highwayman was written by a fellow named Alfred Noyes, I guess. The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. The moon was a ghostly galleon, tossed upon cloudy seas. The road was a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, and the highwayman came riding. The highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. He'd a French-cocked hat on his forehead, a bunch of lace at his chin, a coat of the claret velvet, and breeches of brown doeskin. They fitted with never a wrinkle. His boots were up to the thigh, and he rode with a jeweled twinkle. His pistol butts a twinkle. His rapier hilt a twinkle, under the jeweled sky. Over the cobbles he clattered, and clashed in the dark inn-yard. He tapped with his whip on the shutters, but all was locked and barred. He whistled a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair. Do you still need me? Okay.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? There's a Toyota Camry parked across the street that is blocking a driveway. Can you please go move your Camry? If you've got a Toyota Camry across the street.
But this is the actual
This is the
microphone.
microphone for the brand. That was the one we were testing. Turns out, I was supposed to put this little box in. One tech guy was like,
Is it playing at all from here or no? Well, it should be playing out of here. Okay, welcome everybody. Come on in and grab a seat. And I will just say, first of all, if you're here for the Klingman bar mitzvah, you're in the wrong place. But we've got food too after, so it might be worth sticking around. No, first I want to start and just welcome everybody, and as we remember and we celebrate two really remarkable lives, right? Our parents, our grandparents, sister, brother, dear friends, Carol and Bill. And if any of you don't know me, I'm Bill, or Little Bill, or even Billy to some. I'm one of the sons. And I will just say that on behalf of the whole family, we want you to know just that your presence here today is such a great blessing to all of us, mainly because it's just such a tangible expression of your love for our mom and dad and for us. So as we get started, let's just, if you just join me, we're going to pray for God's comfort and most importantly, just for His presence here today. So, Father, we're so thankful for just the opportunity to be here. We're thankful for family, Lord. We're thankful for friends, and we're so conscious of our loss today, Lord, and we're so dependent upon you just for comfort in this time, to comfort as only you can. And we're just thankful for all the years of blessings that came through your son, Bill, and your daughter, Carol. Just those years that they were on loan to us here. And so we thank you, Lord. Pray that you would be glorified in this time, Lord, and we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So, in my work as a pastor for the past 25 years, Certainly, I have had the privilege of being a part of so many important events in the lives of people that, we care deeply about, like baby dedications and weddings and baptisms and all those things that we love. But of course, I've also had the responsibility of participating in other equally important but often more challenging life events, the hospital calls and even funerals. And those, of course, are the difficult days. And some of them, I'll be honest, are much more difficult than others. But I have to be honest that this one, I have to say, is not really all that difficult. And here's what I mean, and here's why I say it. Because we're not here today because of an infant who died suddenly and seemingly inexplicably just after they were born. And we're not here because of a child or a young adult whose life was tragically and senselessly cut short, or a father or mother cut down, in the prime of their lives, who perhaps leave young children who are asking and wondering, how a loving God could let something like that happen. But what we're talking about today is something very different. And the reason that we're gathered here today is simply to celebrate two lives that were lived incredibly well. Two lives lived with fullness and with vibrancy, two lives that really touched every single other life in this room. And I think I can say left us all much better off having known them. And that really, when it's all said and done, that is a remarkable legacy to leave behind. Any of us who knew Mom and Dad or Grandma and Papa or Carol and Bill or whoever they were, know them to have been truly remarkable people. And I don't mean remarkable in the sense of the word, the way that it's so often thrown around at a memorial service like this. But I mean it in the most real and powerful and personal sense. Just remarkable in the sense that they touched so many. There were so many different aspects to their unique lives. And certainly every one of us in this room remembers them differently. And probably none of us in this room knew them completely. It says in Proverbs that the memory of the righteous will be a blessing. And so, just as we get started today, I wanted to ask my brother Peter to share with us just a snapshot of our remarkable parents, that we would all maybe just be blessed to get a fuller, more complete picture of all that they were to so many people. So, Pete, if you would.
Hi, everyone. We gather today to honor two extraordinary lives, distinct in their gifts, united in their devotion to family, joy, and Jesus. Mom and Dad each carried their own kind of brilliance, Dad with his quiet intellect and gentle humor, Mom with her vibrant spirit and unwavering encouragement. Together they created a home where music, stories, learning, and love flowed effortlessly, shaping everyone fortunate enough to be part of their world. Today we celebrate not only who they were, but the lasting light they leave in all of us. I think we all knew Dad was a remarkably bright man. When people say it's not rocket science, he was one of the few who actually understood what rocket science was. He could read the schematics of an experimental aircraft and determine its pitch, yaw, roll, airspeed, and more before it was built and before computers could do the math. He wrote computer languages at NASA Ames that remained in use decades after he'd retired. But he wasn't all ones and zeros. To stretch the right side of his brain, he read Victor Hugo, Albert Camus, and Alexandre Dumas in French, and dabbled in the other Romance languages along with Russian and Japanese. He loved striking up conversations, you'll know this, while traveling abroad, delighted by the chance to learn or to interact with a local on a park bench. Many never knew it, but Dad also had a robust non-academic side. He played both offense and defense on his high school football team and later made the golf team at Willamette. He sang a lovely baritone. He hummed while he worked, though rarely to the tune that happened to be on the radio. His humor was generous and gentle, and he also had a wonderful ability to laugh at himself. No remembrance of Dad would be complete without "I used to go nuts at Christmas." Many of you looked forward to it every year and knew every word. I loved watching you join in with him on the final chorus. But what I most anticipated every year at Christmas was his poem, a tradition I've carried on. His poems were Master Poe, I'm merely grasshopper. His meter and wordplay were extraordinary, and he changed the style every year simply to amuse himself. Dad loved being a dad, sending Bill and me off to preschool with Skinnamarink-a-dink-a-dink and Bill Grogan's Goat, and turning the long drives into spelling and math games. Dinners, always together, began with "Here we are all together again," and after we harmonized "Be present at our table, Lord," he'd inevitably add, "How'd you like that, Lord?" before slowly savoring his meal, and, he ate slowly. Speaking of slow, sometimes when his stories were too specific or too lengthy or too dry, Mom would inevitably interject, "Faster and funnier, Bill. Faster and funnier." He truly enjoyed playing bridge with Mom and friends, always a gracious sport whether he won or lost. In everything he chose humility. He never led with how much he knew. Instead, he stepped back to let the talents of those around him shine. Now, Mom, too, loved to see others shine. She wasn't in her element unless she was helping someone else step into the spotlight. She had an irrepressible, let's put on a show spirit, and had the knack for finding one's talent and encouraging it to be shared. And she had a positive impact on so many kids at Loma Prieta and CT English, in the Children's Theater, where at the first two she taught as a music teacher. Just after passing, one of her students from Loma Prieta, someone I didn't know, responded to her obituary, found my address, and offered condolences simply saying, "Your mother was a real gem." Mom found joy in and invited so many of the community to be part of her family. She learned to play piano by ear as early as 4 years old, a gift she lovingly attributed to her Aunt Lily. She'd play and sing with her father as often as possible. When they visited the family farm, she cherished time making music with Aunts Alice, Lily, and Helen, too. Her memories of the farm were amongst her most cherished. She also loved poetry and spent hours memorizing and reciting her favorites, a skill she maintained even in her last months. As I would read to her, she would quote every word right alongside me. Poems like the Song of Hiawatha, The Raven, The Highwayman, Annabel Lee, Little Orphan Annie, and Casey at the Bat. Growing up in Detroit, Mom spent her teen summers as a camp counselor at Camp Cavell in Lake Huron. Detroit here, Camp Cavell here. She majored in music at Albion College. She loved to share that the old rugged cross was written there. And soon after graduation, moved to California, where she met Dad in the choir at Church of the Valley in Santa Clara. Her personal spotlight, and some of you remember this, came in 1977 when she was selected as a contestant on Name That Tune. In the history of the show, she named more qualifying tunes than any other contestant. And although she didn't come out on top or win that stylish Datsun B210, we did win the block's first microwave, a nice stereo system, and a year's supply of cremettes. Her welcoming Christmas gathering centered around the piano singing carols, aptly named, and getting everyone to perform regardless of talent level. Some came for her famous sunken treasure dip, but got corralled into being one of We Three Kings. I see you, Charlie. See you, Bob. Together, Mom and Dad created a home filled with laughter, music, language, and love. They delighted in their children and grandchildren, taking joy in their unique achievements and always finding the good in them. They nurtured not only our abilities but our character, showing us, each in their own distinct way, how to live with humility, generosity, creativity, and joy. Comedian Jimmy Carr, in one of his more solemn and poignant moments, once said, "The opposite of grief is not happiness. The opposite of grief is forgetting." As we gather to remember them today, we carry forward the best parts of their legacy. Dad's quiet brilliance and gentle humor, Mom's radiant enthusiasm and boundless encouragement. Their lives were a duet, perfectly balanced, harmonizing in ways that shaped us all. And though we feel their absence deeply, we are forever grateful for the immeasurable gift of having been loved by them.
That was perfect, Pete. Thank you. Now, before we go any further, it's time for the singing. Now, you knew, didn't you, that there was going to be singing, right? Because there was never a gathering where there wasn't singing. Certainly there was Christmas, as Peter mentioned, but also Easter singing, Thanksgiving singing, St. Patrick's Day singing. There was 4th of July singing, President's Day singing, Columbus Day singing, and yes, there were even songs for Halloween singing. And in fact, it shouldn't surprise any of you to know that Grandma had a list of songs that was prepared for us to sing on this very day. And so Peter and his family are now going to lead us in just 2 of those. So what I want you to do is to stand and, yes, pull those hymnals out from the pew in front of you. And you can open them first to number 624, His Eye is on the Sparrow, followed by number 635, which is In the Garden. So take it away, Rocklands.
Okay.
His eyes on the
right. Two great songs that both, I think, just express so powerfully a reality of a relationship that both of my parents just lived out so quietly. And what I mean is that we all knew them as father, mother, sister, brother, grandma, papa, friend, and these are all such precious relationships. And yet, most importantly, we can rejoice today because not only were they all of those things to all of us, but most importantly, they were both beloved children of God, who both knew and both followed the Lord personally. Now, neither were very vocal about their faith. Papa wasn't really very vocal about anything, right? How could he be, right? But they both had this beautiful personal faith, and they both lived lives of faith, and they modeled that for all of us around them. And so as we remember them, we do celebrate not simply their lives, but we do truly celebrate their legacy, that true legacy, as we said before, of lives lived well, legacies of faith and of faithfulness that they've now passed to each and every one of us in some way in this room today. And it's a faith that was deeply rooted and quietly rooted in their relationship with Jesus. And really it's because of this that we can rejoice as we remember them today, because the Bible assures us that for those who believe, Paul tells us as he writes to the Corinthians, he says that to be absent from the body is to be what? Is to be present with the Lord. The Bible assures us that 3 years ago for Dad, or just weeks ago for Mom, that when they each drew their last breath and closed their eyes here, that they opened them in an instant in the presence of Jesus, and that they've been rejoicing safely in his arms together once again from that moment on and now on into eternity. And that's why today is a day to celebrate. So we do grieve, right? But the Bible says that we grieve not as those without hope, because we also know that for those of us who believe and trust also in Jesus, that we're going to be reunited with them when we ourselves are finally finished here and get to enter in there into glory. But until then, while we're left here on this earth, right, we're each left with that precious legacy, and we're left with beautiful memories. And it's those memories that comfort and encourage us as we sort of press on and wait for our turn. And so what we'd like to take some time now to do is just allow those of you who I know have some specific memories of Mom and Dad, you know, who they were really to each of you, or maybe how it was that they impacted your life in a special way, how they left their legacy and their imprint upon you. And we would love to hear you just to share those to encourage us now. It could be a tender memory. It could be a funny story. Just try to keep them, you know, safe for work, if you will. But the more I learned about my mom in those final years, the more I'm afraid I didn't want to know. So it's a good thing most of the old boyfriends have passed from the scene, or else they might be here to tell some tales today. But we're going to start with a few people I know from the family who want to share, and then we'll open it up to everybody else. So Aunt Susie, are you ready to lead us off?
First of all, I'm sure Carol and Bill would be thrilled to see so many dear, dear friends here today. And for those that don't know who I am, I'm Aunt Susie. And I cherish that title by many of you here. But I'm also, you didn't know this, I'm her favorite sister. Let me put my glasses on now. Let me go back to the time and tell you about Carol and Bill's early days here in California, and also their devotion to this particular church. Carol moved to California from Detroit after graduating from Albion College. It was a small Methodist school, and she came here in the summer of 1960. She followed two dear friends from Albion to a new world on the other side of the country. It was a bold move for Carol, but she was always up to new adventures, and knowing they needed teachers in the Bay Area, she soon clinched a 5th grade teacher's position in Santa Clara. Settling into her new surroundings, she joined the church in the valley, also in Santa Clara. After a few years of love and heartbreaks, Carol met dear, sweet Bill in the church choir, of all places. I used to joke with Carol about setting a standard so high for me, it would be almost impossible to find an aeronautical space engineer in a church choir living in Detroit. Soon they became engaged, and in 1965, they headed to Motown for an engagement party at our home. Before the party, Carol and Bill came up to visit me at my college, Olivet College, which was a small congregational school. They met me at my dormitory. The entrance to my dorm had a big, sweeping, Gone with the Wind kind of staircase. And while I was looking down and I saw my future brother-in-law for the first time, I said to Carol in a loud voice, "He's not as bald as I thought he would be." Well, great, Susan, you really won over Bill's heart with that comment. But I truly think he did love me, and having such a wonderfully weird sense of humor, he thought my comment was probably a compliment, and I think it was. Well, we all survived the engagement party, and Daddy generously gave Carol $500 for the entire wedding. That included her wedding dress, the flowers, the reception, and the entertainment. To Daddy's surprise, she made the budget work. After all, we came from a frugal New England family. They lived in Cupertino a few years after their marriage, raising two darling boys, Billy and Peter. Billy, I always still call you Billy. And knowing that their children were nearing school age, they decided to move to Saratoga due to its excellent academic reputation. Here they raised their sons in the public school system and also in this family-friendly church. Now, years later, after the boys married and went on with their own lives, Carol and Bill joined the inevitable Empty Nesters Club. It was a natural segue to join the church's outreach programs. They participated in the church's soup kitchen, making meals for homebound seniors. Carol took charge as always, right? And Bill and she would cook in the church's kitchen, a little pinch of this and a little pinch of that. And Bill was the sous chef, always chopping and cutting, a perfect match. They also enjoyed counseling troubled parishioners on Sunday nights, trying to guide them toward a more meaningful life. But entertaining the seniors at a Saratoga retirement home was probably Carol and Bill's favorite outreach program. They gathered church members, like Joe, piled them into their van, and off they went to entertain these folks, singing patriotic songs, church hymns, and Daddy's favorite love songs from the 1920s and 30s, like If You Were the Only Girl in the World, or I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now, or I can't sing anymore, so I won't bore you with that. It Had to Be You, or Daddy's favorite, I'll Be Loving You Always. Always was his favorite song. Playing the piano by ear, Carol was in her glory, and so was Bill, leading so enthusiastically to a crowd not so peppy. They both were in church choir. Bill was a member far, far longer than Carol, getting up way too early for that first Sunday service, but being forever faithful. They belonged to Bible study groups. Bill enjoyed studying the Bible with his men's group. Carol loved her Bible studies also, but the women's group became more of a cathartic social club, talking about family problems. In Bill's study group, and this was a man, and I do not remember his name, that was well connected to helping the homeless in San Jose. He organized Christmas dinners for them for years. And while I was visiting Carol and Bill during the holidays one year, we volunteered to help serve turkey dinners to the homeless at the San Jose church. As we approached this inner city church, we noticed an ambulance in the parking lot, loading a person into this vehicle, which gave pause to Carol and Bill. Do you think we're safe enough? I said, of course we are, no problem. I see this all the time teaching in Detroit. But before opening the church doors to the public, the outreach organizer, maybe there's someone here that knows who this man is, said to all the volunteers, give the people as many servings as they want, but most of all, give them dignity. Makes me want to cry. So while serving dinner, I looked over at my sister and saw her helping a frail older woman who had fallen off a chair. And Carol helped her get back on her seat and finish her dinner in dignity. Well, I think the real lesson to learn, especially in this day and age, is we all need more people like Carol and Bill, who showed such kindnesses to friends, families, and strangers over the years. Did you know kindness always wins? And dignity is the core to one's self-worth. P.S. The man in the ambulance suffered a few stab wounds due to taking cuts in line, waiting for the church doors to open. Nothing too serious. In closing, I want to thank this church and all the dear friends they met here for giving Carol and Bill a fulfilled love of life beyond their retirement years. They were also blessed with their forever friends, far and near. Their two sons and their beautiful families, loving parents, the love of music, bridge, the Giants, worldwide travels, fun parties, antiquing, gardening, and cooking together. But most of all, I was blessed with having such a dynamic and loving sister and a special, very special, bald-headed brother-in-law.
Thanks, Aunt Susie. Michelle, you ready? So now my wife Michelle has some things she wants to share.
I met Bill and Carol almost exactly 36 years ago, and as I look out, I see so many of you who were a part of their lives for even decades beyond that. With so much life spent together, I have wrestled with what I wanted to share today, how to honor them best, how to try to sum up. Oh, I can't start crying now. That's just terrible. How to sum up the myriad of experiences we've had over so many years and time together. When I try to think back about the first time being over at their house, I always think of the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I grew up as the youngest of 8 kids, so my life included a level of chaos and energy that was very different from what I experienced when I visited my boyfriend's parents' house. I remember a pizza dinner at Bill and Carol's, and Carol always liked the lights dimmed, and so we dimmed the lights and lit the candles even as we were just eating a little bit of Jake's pizza. And while a pizza dinner at my house usually looked something a little bit more like a swarm of locusts coming in for that one last slice, weekends at my home were filled with tons of family, high energy, and the sounds of so many siblings, brothers and sisters-in-law, nieces and nephews that were all gathered for weekly dinners. And anytime I was at Bill and Carol's, it was this really wonderfully calm and relatively quiet place where everything was in this perfect order. I will admit, it took me a little while to get used to all of that. I got there, and very soon in that first season of being together, I went to my very first Christmas gathering at the Osborne Christmas party. And it was at first fairly overwhelming. I had never celebrated holidays with friends, and I had not been to a gathering like that before. And, as has already been mentioned, there were some of the older men wearing really fun and festive hats singing We Three Kings, and all of us grouping together by our birth months to sing the 12 Days of Christmas, all while Billy, Scott, and Todd did their best to disappear unnoticed from the singing part of the night. Carol was at the piano, and everyone was there singing and laughing, while Louise was the perfect partner in crime as the most enthusiastic cheerleader and singer in the crowd. It was one of the many annual events that I stepped into that was filled with music and laughter and fun. Christmas time was marked with Bill singing I Yes Go Nuts at Christmas, and Carol getting us all to sing Frosty the Snowman and Here Comes Susie Snowflake all around. And these times were all gathered around the piano. They became the hallmark of what life looked like with my soon-to-be in-laws. Over the years, there were many Thanksgiving gatherings, St. Patrick's Day sing-alongs, Christmas open houses. I mean, Billy went through the list. We did sing all the time for sure. Each event called for the bringing out of the instruments, the passing out of the music sheets, many impromptu solos. My adult life became marked by music and by spending time with so many of you sitting here today. I had to get past my shyness pretty quickly because Bill and Carol led a big life that involved visiting with so many dear friends. Sorry. I loved the way they loved people. Whether it was Joy opening a present, and Carol loved the way Joy opened gifts. She'd open the gift and she'd smell it and she'd just drink it in, right? And it would just delight Carol to no end. Or the way Kevin would explain to us what to do and what not to do in the hat game. Give a clue like he was a former president, not Phil Schminton. You know, he'd give us all the how-tos. Or the many adventures of Jim and Marilyn and their travels and their family stories, or hearing about the latest bridge game tournament with Norma, how they were stomping their competition, or the way Sue and Joe would jump right into the shenanigans on Christmas Eve, or the many times of dinner and games and visiting with Bob and Lou, the many long nights playing the up and down game, or the honor I received of being dubbed Carol's best eater. Because she loved the way I moaned without realizing it when I was eating her cooking. Their lives were so marked by loving others well and receiving their love in return. It has served as this precious example of allowing your life to be shared with others and always gathering friends as you go along your journey. Early on, I began directing at Days Avenue School, just not very far from here, and Carol was my musical director. I loved getting to have that experience with her for several years. Both Bill and Carol always celebrated what mattered to me. I will admit that I was incredibly intimidated by this family of such amazingly talented people, and I honestly felt like I wasn't artistic enough to be one of them, to feel as though I belonged, but they always celebrated my artistic accomplishments, cheering me on as a performer, coming to my personal dance concerts as a choreographer, a director, a teacher. They always believed in me. They also believed in me as a mom and never failed to tell me so. I cannot count the number of times Bill, who just became Papa, always Papa, I can't tell you the many times that he would take the moment to turn to me and say, "Michelle, you are doing such a great job with those children." I cannot tell you how much that has meant over the years. My parents both passed away while I was in my 20s, and neither of them was alive to meet our 4 kids. So Grandma and Papa, they were the Grandma and Papa for everything. Starting at about 6 weeks old, each of my kids got to go 1 day a week for their day, their Grandma and Papa Day. They cooked together, they played catch on the front lawn, they gathered berries and baked pies, they visited Vasona, and they rode the train. They swam, they wore costumes, they read stories, they played trains, they sang songs. I would hear how Abby insisted on moving the chaise lounge into the ivy so that Grandma could lay down and she could be the sleeping princess. Also that Abby could be the evil witch who would cast a spell on her. Noah absolutely loved their banana muffins, like going out for big adventures with Papa, especially when they involved a train. Eden would keep them on their toes always and was Papa's sidekick, whether it was in the kitchen, in the garden, or doing a chore. Naomi would love and care for Molly the dolly, carefully changing her outfit and making sure she was looking good sitting on the bed in what had been Billy's old room, which Grandma absolutely loved. My kids cannot even begin to recall a part of growing up that didn't involve Grandma and Papa. Every birthday, every holiday, every special event, Grandma and Papa were there, cheering them on. The only exception that I can recall was Eden's birth, when they were in Europe with Aunt Susie. But even then, they sent Bob and Louise as their proxies, and they called their brand new grandbaby from overseas. Every martial arts belt promotion, ballet nutcracker, June dance performance, musical or choir performance, they were there. They were there when the kids dabbled in soccer and basketball. They were there when they all performed in a homeschool co-op talent show. They even traveled to New York and Taos, New Mexico when Abby had dance intensives out of town. They came to hear Billy teach at church and to watch Noah and his sisters leading worship. And in the times that were harder, they were there too. When my dad was in hospice, I would stay with him during the days while my mom was at work. And it was a really challenging time to see my dad's health rapidly declining. And most days after caring for my dad, I would head over to Bill and Carol's to meet up with them and Billy for dinner. We'd all have dinner together. And as I would be driving over, pretty much every time, as I would be driving over, I'd be just a few blocks away, and all of a sudden my tears would just come like just break forth, like a waterfall. And even then, I knew it was because I was about to step into a space where the people there were going to take care of me. They were going to be my refuge in a time of grief, and they were there for me just as much as they were there in the happy and the celebratory times. They were there for those moments as well. Grandma and Papa were unbelievably generous with their time and their love and their encouragement, and through the opportunities they gave our kids. One of the biggest opportunities was the chance to join them in Europe to celebrate their 50th anniversary in Venice, Italy. Together with Peter and Mary Ann, Ben and Becky, we all rode gondolas through the canals with singing gondoliers, and later sat next to the water's edge for a celebratory dinner all together as a family. The entire trip is one of the best memories in our family's history. I will admit it was hard to see them age, but it was also a bit funny at times. Some of you might know where I'm going with this. We have a favorite, more recent Christmas memory. We were opening presents, and Papa got a red crew neck sweater. A little bit later, he got another item of clothing. It was a red crew neck sweatshirt. And he kept remarking about how he loved this sweatshirt. But he kept saying, I just love this sweater. This is a great sweater. And then eventually, I don't know if it was Carol or it was Aunt Susie, but one of them called out, Bill, it's a sweatshirt, not a sweater. And without even taking a beat, he just turned and he said, well, I'm going to wear it like a sweater. We said, so that has become a phrase in our home whenever we're just going to do what we're going to do. We're going to just wear it like a sweater. It was in those last few years of his life, Grandma would, with a little smirk, say, Papa has finally found his no. It really got us. Because this little mild defiance was coming from just about the friendliest man you could ever meet. Up to that date, at least to my knowledge, his previously harshest words had become legendary. Years before, when the boys were younger and he had gotten cut off in traffic and nearly crashed into, when in deep stress and frustration, he called out to the other driver, and please, Lord, forgive me, you dirty booger. That was Papa. That's about as harsh as he ever got. These last several years brought a great amount of change in their lives as their age caught up with them. But even with that, they kept attending every event that they could. They enjoyed their visits with friends so much. Many friends made the big drive to come over and see them on the other side of the hill after their time in Saratoga had ended. Those longtime friendships and loved ones stayed so faithful to the very end. To all who called, wrote cards, made the big visit, and remembered them in prayer, we as a family thank you. Bill and I would like to call out a few people, and I'll apologize in advance because I'm not going to be able to call everything that I wish that I could, but there are a few that I just wanted to mention. We wanted to call out Chris, and we wanted to thank her for her care through the years. Chris was with us on both of the days when Bill and Carol passed. And there are so many times her nursing expertise helped us to understand and process the things that we were going to, and she translated all that medical speak into something we could understand. And I know she loved them dearly. Chemo, Joe, and Bob were all there in those days, driving Bill to the doctor's appointments, and Bob Leonard, that was, and seeing them through this time in their lives. And I thank you for being such wonderful longtime friends. Joy, I just want you to know, every time you called or visited, you brought such literal joy. It was like no time had passed, and you were Joy Pin, and she was in and Carol. Rocky, I want to thank you for being a steadying presence as they navigated retired life. Thank you for caring so deeply about their well-being in every sense. I want to thank a longtime dear friend, Larry, who was especially precious in these years. Larry frequently flew down just to sit beside her and talk poetry or baseball or sing songs together. And his many visits have been such an incredible blessing to her and to our family. Thank you, Larry. Peter, I want to thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for calling every week, for giving her that time to play Name That Tune, that time that she looked forward to, and to meet her in music. That was very special. Precious Luz, I don't know where Luz is, but Luz is about there. Luz was our rock of support over these last few years. Luz, thank you for caring so well for those who are the most precious to us. Thank you for going beyond caregiver to friend. We love you and we miss seeing you so regularly. We genuinely could not have done it without you. As I said, I wish I could call out every one of you by name to let you know how grateful we are for the care over all these many years. One last person I do want to call out is Aunt Susie. Aunt Susie has been the most faithful sister anyone could ever imagine. I can only hope that my kids hold her example of love and devotion in their hearts and honor their siblings in a similar way. Carol and Susie were first friends, and they were best friends. Susie called almost every day, and she continued their lifelong companionship to the very end. We love you, Aunt Susie. For our family, it's been an absolute privilege to be in Grandma and Papa's daily lives until each of them took their last breath. We have been so blessed, and they have left us all with such a legacy of love. It will continue to mark us and shape us in every day of our lives. So, thank you, Bill and Carol. Thank you, Grandma and Papa. Thank you for living your lives so well and for allowing us to be so much a part of them. You will remain forever in our hearts.
Yes, I married up. There's no question about that. Kids, nobody, Rocklands, nobody. Larry, I know you wanted to share, so this is, Michelle just mentioned him, lifelong dear Larry. And then we'll open it up to everybody. So.
I wish I had prepared something. I appreciate what Bill and Peter and Susie and Michelle shared. It helped me understand Bill and Carol better. I am a friend from afar. I met Carol when she was a part of our family, and we met at the Church of the Valley in Santa Clara in 1960. I was 12 years old. And she was a part of our family every night, every Friday night for games night, bridge, Pictionary, charades. And I just remember there was a group of friends that my parents had over all the time. And Carol was one of those people for the 5 years in my life until she met Bill. And I moved away. I went off to college in '65 and just went and did my life until my mom died in 2000, and my dad in 2010. And I realized that all those other people that were part of that Friday night, they'd all passed away. You know, the ones that were left were Carol and Bill. And the bond that I had, sometimes it's more than what people do, it's what they are. And Carol and Bill knew how to be for me. Bill said, we've all been blessed just having them in our lives, and that is so true for me. And when I'd leave Oregon to come down and visit more as Bill advanced toward his departure, and especially Carol, I'd tell my friends at work or whatever that I was going down to be with the last living people, the last living friends of my parents. And so that connection has been an incredibly special connection for me. The times that I spent with Carol were, as Peter mentioned, she loved poetry, and we'd go through all of those poems that Peter mentioned, and I'd read them, but she could say them from memory, and I'd let her lead the line, and she would. And I knew when I came up here that everything that I had in my head would disappear, and it mostly has. But I remember one very special thing about Bill. I didn't know him that well, except that he was always positive, always smiling, and always won at Scrabble. But his poems were just a highlight of the Christmas season. And a few months ago, we moved from Southern Oregon to Northern Oregon, and I was going through some things, and I found a poem that he had written, and it was very special to read it again. I think of Carol and singing around the piano. I think of those calls from Peter that he would play, name that tune, and Carol, he'd say, "Oh, you're going to get this one, Larry." No. No, Larry didn't get it. Carol always did. So anyway, the memories, that special connection that I had since I was 12 years old is precious to me, and the family that they've started and left behind is very special to me also. Thank you.
All right, I have to think that there are people with things that they would love to share, so you're welcome to come up here to share if you want. You can stand, and there's a microphone that Peggy can bring to you. But we just want to spend some time and just allow whoever has something to say it. So, anybody dare to be first? Trudy, I should have known.
Did you want to go up or you fine?
It doesn't matter. I can do it from here. My name is Trudy Monroe, and when I was in 7th grade, my parents moved us from Rochester, New York to Detroit. And 7th grade, it's kind of hard to make a move, but around the corner on the very next street lived the Richardsons. And Carol said, "You can walk to school with us, and you can be part of the little gang." Now, we're from Detroit, I just know that. So I immediately was part of the little gang. The big gang had a couple of other girls in there that, you know, we weren't mean girls, but we stayed close as the little gang. But just to let you know, and that was so sweet. I mean, the overture right away and just made me feel comfortable, and we have lifelong friends forever and forever. And so we shared a lot together, a lot of good secrets, and one of the things that brought Carol and Bill together, I know, was the baseball, but just to let you know, Carol and I, and who knows why we were able to do it, we would take the bus to then Briggs Stadium, which is where the Tigers would play. And she and I, we both had our own mitts, and we took our snacks and we'd go see the Tigers, and her mitt was Pinky Higgins. Well, who knows who Pinky Higgins is? Actually, he was the third baseman in Boston, but many years ago, because we're old and you're not. So anyway, so her love of baseball began then, and we would talk about it and so forth. So when she moved and said that she and Bill had tickets and would go see the Giants, there was a Rhodes Scholar trip that said, okay, let's go and do spring training. And so Bill and Carol and myself and a couple other people went to spring training, which then became an event every year. And Susie joined us, and we had lots of fun. As far as going to high school, that was, she was naturally in the plays, the school plays. I was more yearbook and newspaper. So we complemented each other. So one thing, we would walk to Redford High School, which is no longer there anymore, but there was a car dealership on the way. So we were walking, and we thought, gee, we're so tired. You know, we're literally walking a mile to school or more. So anyway, so we went into the car dealership and said, we'd like a test drive, and we'd like you to drive. And the guys got such a charm out of it, so they got, I tell you the truth, it was whatever was the best Chevrolet on their, they drove us to school. So it was really cute. And they just sat and, you know, these girls think they want it. And so that was really kind of fun. Those were the kind of fun things that we would do. And she was always out for an adventure. And so we had adventures. In high school, we had a sorority, and we'd put on all these dances and dinners, and she had this one boy that she was hoping and hoping, but thank God, no, because she met Bill. One thing about our high school, we both took French, and we thought we were pretty good until Bill heard us trying to speak French, and he would go, now I think he never got upset, but you know, when something wasn't really correct, and he said, don't ever say the number 9 again, because you keep saying nerf, and it's not nerf. So he has just really been a great part of our lives. Our kids growing up, we would visit each other and kept track. My father's birthday was the same as Carol's, and she never forgot. She always sent him a card, and very special times. My brother loved Carol, and he was the only one that he would let them call Mikey. And Mikey would come, but as Mike grew up, he loved Carol and Bill too. And so we would come up, we did go over to Santa Cruz to visit, and my brother is talented mechanically also, so he and Bill, they had a record player that wasn't working. Well, oh yes, let's go do that. And then we sit and sing hymns. It was wonderful. So just to say before that spiritually, family, the whole the whole package. The whole package was Carol and Bill, and so glad they were part of my life.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin. Nice to see you. For my first number, I'd like to... I'm kidding. You know, I love coming to these because I'm not being rude standing this way, am I? No. You hear so much about people that you think you know, but you learn so much more than you even thought you knew. And that's what I think is so great about a day like today, that we can all spend together. And for me, I would say very quickly, because I'm sure lots of you want to share some ideas, but it was over 40 years ago when I met actually Bill and Peter at the Children's Theater, and then through them got to know Carol and Bill. I was a single man from the Midwest, and of course they opened their home immediately for Thanksgiving, a holiday tradition that, you know, has been for decades now, that started just with me, but then with my wife and with my kids, and you know, they have really shaped both of my children so much. When my wife went back to work, Catherine would go to see Carol and Bill a lot on those special days, and in so many ways, those days were the most important days of my kids' lives. Do you guys have garage art at your house? You know, where you take the old project of the kids and they're up in the garage? Well, we still have all the old ones up, and I remember just the other day I was seeing the one where Catherine had to do something for school, and she was going to make lemonade. So Carol and Bill taught her how to make lemonade, and they came to the presentation, and there were pictures of Catherine in their kitchen, and they did the poster board. That's one of 100 stories I could tell you that shape my daughter, my son, my wife, myself. They have made such a difference that will live forever in the way that we live our lives, and we feel privileged to have been involved with them in any way, shape, or form. How else would you know the fourth verse of Silent Night? Am I wrong? I don't think so. Or the day we went for Halloween and the kids were coming as the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy, and you show up and there's Bill wearing Peter's old scarecrow costume ready to take the kids out. We feel very blessed to be here today and blessed to have them in our lives. Thank you.
I came late to the party. So Kevin was well established at the Children's Theater, and as we got married, we started getting these gifts from some of these amazing families, like the Osbornes as well. And I'd be like, who are these people? I just can't even believe it, but it made me feel very happy that he was so well loved in California. We initially moved to Texas and had our first child there, and then suddenly, before you know it, we ended up transferring to California, and now I'm actually getting an opportunity to meet these people who I've only known through their generosity and beautiful cards and letters in the past. We had Catherine soon after we arrived here and felt the sticker shock of moving to California. And I talked to Billy one day and I said, I know your mom just retired. Do you think it's possible she might want to take care of my daughter, who was only 3 months old at the time? And she said, oh, honey, for sure. And I said, well, I work 3 12-hour shifts at the hospital. And she said, okay. And I said, I'm not sure how much we can pay you or when. And she said, we don't need the money, honey. And suddenly what became a business transaction initially turned into extended family. Sorry. So I lost my parents, like Michelle, before my children were ever born, and I had always hoped that they would have grandparent experiences. And so I was so fortunate because Carol and Bill took Catherine as their own, and at that point in time, Billy and Michelle did not have children, and Peter and Marianne lived with Ben and Becky 2 hours away. So Catherine got to have the advantage of being with Bill and Carol first. Just like Michelle said, lots of adventures, picking blackberries, eating them, working out in the garden, making jam, making muffins, teaching Catherine how to cook. They'd put her on a stool with a little apron, and I have all these pictures of her in the kitchen preparing meals. We were grateful for that because we did a lot of takeout at that point in time. And so we think Catherine's palate was developed by Bill and Carol, certainly for salmon anyway. But anyway, years went on and they became a mother and a father to me as well. But anyway, I won't go on. You know they're the most lovely, wonderful people. They adopted so many people through the years. I read this today, and I thought it was really apropos. I think friendship is one of the greatest love stories we ever have. Sometimes someone who has nothing to owe you chooses you anyway. They become a part of your life just because they want to be. I don't think we talk enough about how special that is, to be loved by people who are not family, who didn't fall in love with you, who just met you, got to know you, and decided, I want you to be a part of my life. I think that's one of the purest forms of love there is.